All right. Hey, everybody joining at home. Welcome to our daily news and opinion show, our roundup. I am your host today, Thursday, September 25th, Tamara Ugolini, and I'm joined by my co-host and colleague and friend, Drea Humphrey from British Columbia. Hey, Drea, we have some breaking ostrich news today. We're going to chat a little bit about how the ostriches are safe, at least for now. The Conservatives have finally spoken up and grown a backbone. And the Liberals, of course, are going ahead with their gun grab. But first and foremost, I think everyone is just so eager to hear about the ostrich news. And of course, if you have any comments or you want to get involved with the show, you can do so by giving us a Rumble rant if you're joining us over on Rumble, or a super chat or post show a super thanks on YouTube. Let Drea know what you think of her work over the last few days. And I mean, really over the last several months at the ostrich farm, but it really reached a boiling point the last few days when there was a standoff with the CFIA and the ostriches were facing this imminent cull order, and that's been at least temporarily stayed. So Drea, do you want to bring us up to speed? What's the breaking news with the ostriches as of today?
Well, it's like there was about five breaking news stories in each day that we were
Yeah.
there. So it was really nice to have Sheila Gunn Reid come out so we could tackle that from all around. But the birds are healthy and alive or I should say, healthy and asymptomatic for 200 and 34 days. So they're almost getting to that 250 mark. And the CFIA's call is temporarily paused with an interim stay order. So that was a big celebration, of course, yesterday, and it allows the farmers and the supporters to take a little bit of a breather while they're there. Now it's a very temporary pause, and the CFIA gets to set the pace of that pause in the sense that it's about how long it takes for them to respond. And then once they respond, which I believe the date they have to respond by is October 2nd, then the farm has to respond within 2 days. I don't think the CFIA is going to take anywhere near that deadline with all of our tax dollars and the lawyers that they have. And the reason why I think they're going to do this as promptly as possible is the fact that they're on the property right now.
Mhm.
They knew the farm was going to be pursuing what they're pursuing, and they tried to race them and brought all of these resources and created the task force and set up everything, knowing that at the same time, at any moment, this could happen. Just think about that for a second. The agency is racing farmers and their constitutional right to pursue an appeal in Supreme Court to the point that they know that they could be wasting all of our tax dollars, and they still did it anyway. So I don't think they're going to take very long.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that I really wanted to drive home is that the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, has taken over the segment of the farm that the ostriches live on. Is that a fair way to word it?
Yes, so the farm is owned by two families. It's owned by Dave Belinsky, and then he has his family that lives there, and it's owned by Karen Esperson, who has her family. So the animals are more sort of on Dave's property, even though they share the herd and everything like that. So they have jurisdiction, the CFIA, under the Health of Animals Act, to remain there, to stay there, and the farmers have no access to there. However, they are not permitted to do anything to further their cull plans, which is interesting because the last time the farmers did get an interim stay as they were pursuing something in court, they were told, the CFIA was told, you cannot do the call, but you can still keep working on, getting closer to the call. So it is interesting that they're not allowed to set up and they're not allowed to continue to do stuff. But what we saw almost immediately after, they were told about this day was their CFIA officers climbing on ladders to it appears disconnect the cameras that we've been streaming to give an over pen view of what they've been doing there, and duct taping other cameras as well. So that seems like they're taking some initiative there that they shouldn't really be doing. Aside from feeding the animals, there really isn't anything else they should be doing right now.
Yeah, I see in one of your clips, and I don't think we need to play well, it's actually only 40 seconds. So maybe we can just throw to this clip of Katie Psitny saying how the CFIA is going about basically destroying their security cameras, which they were live streaming from. And we've been restreaming, and so many people have been watching with bated breath to see what happens to these ostriches. Maybe we can just throw to this quick little clip.
Again, this puts us, we have video footage of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency with broom handles and knives on the end, cutting our wires on our camera that are not impeding anything. They're destroying potential evidence. They're destroying our property. And they're not doing, those cameras were not in the way. They're not doing anything. So what are they hiding? And that's what are they doing behind closed doors that are in our pens?
And they're actually destroying the cameras. They're not removing them.
Actually, they've taped over a bunch of them. They didn't. Some of them they did, but some of them they taped.
So send me any of those videos. Can you guys please email me any of those videos?
Yeah, that is just like that is not governance anymore. That is a government gone rogue when you are starting to tamper with surveillance footage and cameras that the farm has in place for their own security reasons that arguably can't be restored very easily once they, I hope, and I will say inevitably regain control of their farm, one day. This isn't a case of a government that's acting, ethically within its bounds. This is Gestapo stuff.
Well, in so many ways, and other ways that it seems as though the CFIA isn't acting ethically is that usually farmers are actually given the opportunity, if their herd is going to be called, to be a part of it. It's their animals, and of course some, and I'm assuming many say no, but the agency usually says, if you want to be involved, we understand that you're attached to these animals. That was never, ever given to these farmers. Instead, they were treated like criminals for bagging to be able to feed the birds the proper way and keep them in their routine up until the last moments. That's what they were continuously asking for. They're saying these birds know and love us, and they're already freaked out. The RCMP's driving their drones too low, which made them go hysteric and one injure itself. And all they were asking is for what other farmers, and they didn't know this, but other farmers have been given that opportunity to be a part of the process. And instead, it resulted in both Karen and her daughter, Katie, being arrested. So again, it is the state versus the farmers. A little interesting caveat that, you don't know while you're, recording things and then you find out after. As many of you know, we had a great supporter offer to help us with our investigating and flew us up in a helicopter. But the timing of that was actually so funny because we had just captured that Katie and Karen had been arrested. And then it just so happened that's when my dog, my mic wouldn't attach probably. So sorry about my dog if he needs his nails cut, I guess. But we had just covered how they had been arrested. And it just so happened right after that, the helicopter had landed. So from the RCMP's perspective, because we thought the farmers were being taken to a jail, but as we were up in the air, we had discovered their command station was hidden in a, nearby wooded area that's sort of shielded from the road. And so we actually hovered right over where they took the farmers. And so Katie has since told me that, they separated her and her mom in this outside area. That's some of our footage, but we actually found the command center. So the RCMP were going, that's not us. Who's us? And they're freaking out. If they're thinking, what's going on with this farm? We take the farmers, all of a sudden there's a helicopter over our operation, which was pretty funny. But we were able to see that they had the fencing that they were going to roll out. We were able to see the hay, and we were able to see that they have what appears to be holding centers over there. And then we were able to see what their plan was going to be with setting up a kill box and warn the farmers from the air. I mean, there's not a whole lot they could do, but we were also told at the farm, the CFIA agents were freaking out about the helicopter too and saying, no, that's not ours. And it's just funny because all of these things are happening so fast for the CFIA as they race these farmers, whether it be some companies backing out. The political pressure seems to be increasing immensely. And their slogan that they had from I don't know, I think back in January, I remember first hearing the phrase when I would interview them. They'd say the world is watching, and the world wasn't watching at that time, but now it really is.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up the political pressure element, because we have a few calls from the Conservatives who are finally speaking up, saying we're reaching out to the Agriculture Minister, Agriculture Canada, trying to get some answers on some of these things. I wanted to highlight here one from Bob Zimmer. He is Member of Parliament for Prince George Peace River in the Northern Rockies. He says, he says, Mark Carney, why won't you listen to experts in the agricultural community on the issue of calling 400 ostriches on the Universal Ostrich Farm? Livelihoods depend on their ability to raise and maintain these ostriches. The Liberal government failed to explain why this call is necessary or why it won't retest, right? That's a key element in this story, I think. It must show Canadians why these ostriches pose a health and safety risk to humans and livestock that justifies the call. With the stay issued by the Supreme Court of Canada, we call on the Liberal government to ensure the CFIA is following its procedures to work with the farmers to resolve this situation and protect Canadian agriculture.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
then, of course, he shares a screenshot of the CBC and their reporting, which we'll get to in a minute, how the mainstream media has really skewed to be expected, right? Skewed the reporting on all of this. But we have this one I think is a video from Mel Arnold, MP in the House of Commons from yesterday, finally bringing this issue up. I mean, the House just resumed last week, so they've been out for, the better part of this entire year, but also the summer. So maybe we can just play this quick little 1-minute clip here of Mel Arnold yesterday in the House.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
Mr. Speaker, farmers love their animals and would do anything to protect them. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency is planning to cull 400 ostriches in BC because of an outbreak of avian flu. When it comes to animal safety, Canadians expect due diligence and transparency. Canadians are looking to this government to explain why the cull is necessary, but the Liberal government has not posted a public update in over a month. Canadians want to know, why did the Liberal ministers not work with the agriculture sector to resolve this issue?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to make sure that this member knows that I am working very closely with the Minister of Agriculture, and the case is now in front of the court, so I won't comment more. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that we've seen that before. I should add, as far as the Conservatives go, the local Conservative MP has engaged in this issue for months. He has not been silent about this issue. His name is Scott Anderson, and he represents Vernon, Country Lake, Monashee. He's been trying to apply pressure on, of course, the Minister of Agriculture, and he's been making statements. And it seems as though he took a lot of time to actually talk to scientists before he spoke out. He spoke with Dr. Stephen Pellick with UBC. He spoke with Dr. Bridle as well, because he's not a scientist, so he wanted to understand. And he's been standing very firm and saying that this is unscientific. But I do know many people, I see it in my comments, I see it in my emails, I hear it in person when I'm at the farm. They all want to hear from Poilievre. They don't understand why he isn't up here talking about this nonpartisan issue, by the way. This is not a controversial issue. Everybody can understand that if anything had a flu 4 months ago, they certainly shouldn't be killed for it later. And as far as the statement that the most recent claims from CFIA that's come out, it's so ridiculous, Tamara. You're going to cringe when you hear this if you haven't already. Their lead veterinarian came out just before the decision, the unanimous decision to uphold the cull order in the Federal Court of Appeal. The lead veterinarian with the CFIA, of course, not impartial at all, she came out and said, upon further review of the samples that they took back in December from 2 deceased carcasses, overcycled PCR tests on 2 deceased carcasses. Based on those test samples, she's now saying today that, these birds don't just have H5N1. They have like a very extreme, rare, mutated version that is so highly infectious. And it's just ridiculous. But it's opening up people's eyes because, like I said, it's not a left or a right thing. And people are going, wait, I'm sorry, we're not retesting them? This makes no sense.
Yeah, and if it's so deadly and is so contagious, then why have they been healthy and asymptomatic for so long? Like the better part of half of a year. We're approaching a year basically that these animals have been otherwise healthy.
Yeah, it's like during COVID when they tried to say if we're outside and we should still stay home even if we don't have any symptoms because we could be carriers. And yeah, so maybe they think the ostriches are going to start making out with humans around them or something. I have no clue. It just
I remember when they were having no symptoms is one of the symptoms, right?
Yeah, that was
it's that playbook all over again. Yeah, if you don't have any symptoms, that is a symptom. So everyone just make sure that you remain terrified and scared and in your house and don't leave it to do anything.
Or if you get the jab and you get an injury, that means it's working. If you die, it was working so well.
The Orwellian doublespeak is alive and well in Canada in 2025.
Yeah.
We have another one from Lauren Duerksen. He's an MLA in Caribou Chilcotin. Is that how I pronounce it correctly, Drea? I'm not sure. Anyway, so he says in his post on X, I've reached out with many questions on this topic before today, and he reached out yet again. And then he attaches the letter that he sent, basically calling on the government to justify, of course, this cull order, offer why exactly they will not just simply retest the birds, or at least a portion of them. And I really liked, I think it's the third paragraph down, where he says, this raises an important scientific and ethical question. Why would we not take the opportunity to study these birds and better understand what has enabled their survival? It is possible that they carry antibodies and other natural defenses that could contribute valuable insights in the fight against avian disease. And then, of course, he respectfully asks for more information and justification once again. And I think that's the heart of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's the where you start going, even if you haven't been really paying attention to the romance between big pharma and government, you start going, do they want that science to die? Because I'm sorry, the Americans are saying they'll help fund it. They'll help fund the research. It seems like it would be a win-win. Canada could, save the world from the avian flu and COVID-19. And so all these people who are terrified and maybe still wearing masks in their car are saying, well, wait a minute, like, why are we killing them? And this story is so amazing. One man there, and I keep saying this because it was so beautiful the way he said it. He said that these ostriches represent Canadians who have had their heads buried in the sand, as ostriches sometimes do. And he's saying, and now they're looking up, just like the ostriches are looking at the CFIA, looking at the people, looking at the RCMP, and these Canadians are starting to look around and going, what's going on? Just like the ostriches, like, why is everybody paying attention to us? What's not working here? And so I think that is what's happening. And I say this certainly not to brag, but Rebel News, we are usually giving a voice for people who understand these issues that we report on are happening. They're real, they're concerns, and the mainstream media isn't covering them. But what's happening is this story is help bringing that to light. It's breaking through the echo chamber to the point that, ostriches and my first name was trending on X. That tells me people are now watching Rebel News that didn't even know Rebel News existed. And they're starting to hear about government overreach in maybe a way they never knew was happening. And I think that this story is going to have great implications when it comes to people understanding that you can't just blindly trust your government anymore and assume that it's always acting in your best interests.
Yeah, and taking appropriate and necessary steps, because as so many holes are being poked in the CFIA's stance and their actions and what they're trying to execute here, quite literally, people are saying, well, wait a minute, this doesn't actually make very much sense, and we need to start asking some questions. And of course, in true liberal fashion, there aren't any answers. And it's all, well, now they're shielded behind, oh, well, it's in the courts, so I can't comment any further. And like, this is so par for the course in the liberal government's conduct, despite being so always, what's the word that I'm looking for, dedicated to truth and transparency. And you can see that the exact opposite plays out in real time. And
they've
speaking
known
of
about this
the
issue
US
for months. They've known about it. I mean, even our email campaign at savetheostriches.com, that one click has, Mark Carney on there. It has the Minister of Ag. So they're, it's all for show.
They know. We have Robert Malone. He's shared a photo of the ostriches. Of course, he's a scientist and one of the early inventors of the modified RNA technology, who's spoken out very loudly against its use in the general public, as we've seen over the last few years. But he shares a photo of an ostrich kind of stretched out, and he says, can we all agree that the Canadian government is evil? So yeah, the world is watching. When you have someone with such a massive platform like Robert Malone share that kind of picture and those words, absolutely, the world is watching.
It's just like, I think when I share that, I'm like, why are we so embarrassing? Like, we're seeing peaceful protesters' accounts. We're the only ones locking up pastors during COVID. And like, now we're just killing healthy ostriches. It's like, what the heck is, like, it's so embarrassing, honestly.
We are the laughing stock or the laughing flock on the world stage. I just want to get to one other thing to do with the ostriches, which of course comes from the CBC, Canada's state broadcaster, which we're all forced to pay through bailouts and subsidies with our tax dollars. They finally have started speaking. I mean, they've done a little bit of coverage here and there, but
they've done a lot of coverage. They have been covering. I mean, obviously, Rebel has covered it the most. We have close reports. It doesn't compare, but they have been. Every time there was a legal matter or whatever, they have covered it. It's just what they don't say and what they do say when they cover it. That's the main issue,
and how they say it.
Yes.
And so we have here. This is a virologist, one of their TV doctor, kind of these recycled experts that the CBC likes to default to. This is what she had to say. She comes from the University of Saskatchewan. Here's what she had to say about the birds and their alleged infectiousness.
The avian flu outbreaks with what's called the stamping out policy, or mandatory depopulation of flocks that have been infected. So this is really both scientifically and legally, I think, the right thing to do to reduce the risk as much as we can.
You're a leading expert in this field. You have no political agenda when it comes to analyzing science. So I want to put to you something we heard from the spokesperson for the farm, saying that these birds have been healthy for more than 200 days, that they're probably building immunity to avian flu, and therefore not only should they not be culled, but we should actually be preserving these ostriches. When you hear that, what's your reaction?
Well, my reaction to that is that it's not really accurate. So in ostriches, disease severity is based on how old the birds are, and these are all older birds. Older birds tend to not get very sick when they are infected with avian flu, at least in the few experiments that have been done with this and in our observations at different ostrich outbreaks. So you can't really tell if the ostriches are sick just by looking at them. You also can't make the assumption that they're going to develop protective immunity against a reinfection because often these older ostriches that don't get very sick don't develop antibodies against the virus. So we actually don't really know if these birds do have protective immunity, if they had been infected before. We just have to assume that they could have been infected and they may still be infected.
All right. Well,
it's so wrong on so many levels. First of all, you could retest them to find out if they're still sick. But not only that, she's basically saying they could catch the virus again, so let's kill them. I want to put out a media inquiry to her. You know, now that I'm home and my internet works, there's so much stuff I want to dig into that I couldn't while I was running around on the farm and smelling like an ostrich. But just looking her up, it says that she is a virologist and with the Vaccine and Infectious Disease Organization at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada. So yeah, totally impartial. We know that Big Pharma is currently racing the clock to try to come up with an mRNA vaccine approach to, coming out and saying, oh, here is how we solve the mass culling issue, not that antibody thing. And yes, of course, older birds are less likely to get sick because their immune system has built up. That's why only the young ones, basically, there were 69 birds, less than 15% of the flock that did pass away last year when a sickness went through the farm. It was the younger ones who hadn't built up resistance. And perhaps this flock didn't have H5N1, or maybe they had a different strain before, which is why the older ones live. And that is why you want them to live and have offspring so that they can pass that on through the eggs that are being used for research. So it's infuriating, really.
Yeah, exactly. And she says in there, well, we don't know, and they're making assumptions, and none of that sounds very scientific to me. And so why not just retest then? If you don't know and you have to make assumptions about it, just retest.
Yeah, she even said based on the few studies available. So you're admitting that there needs to be more studying. Like, what happened to wanting to know the answer as being involved in science? I thought that's the whole point. These are already research birds. And now that they've had this virus, they are the perfect birds to further research. Canada, it appears, doesn't even really have to pay for it. Like, it's nuts. And hopefully the world continues to watch. I mean, I do think they messed with the wrong farm here. I mean, maybe that's because it's hard enough raising ostriches as they're talking, like the other day, because they were so hysterical in our footage. I don't know if you noticed, but when we would interview Dave, both ears were bleeding because like they were all nervous and they're pecking him, and he's just standing there, like not even like flinching as they're like eating him alive. So don't mess with ostrich farmers because it's not going to go down as easy as you think.
They're quite literally a different breed.
Yeah.
We have a few super chats here to get to about the ostriches. And I mean, this is a big story. People are really watching, like I said, with bated breath to see, like, do the ostriches live another day? And yes, they have. Thanks, I think, in no small part to the coverage that you've provided to this story, Drea, and of course, Sheila, the last few days
and
when tensions were so heightened.
The people too. The people are really taking action.
Absolutely. Nana Awake gives us $10. Thanks so much. After stay blackout fencing installed at Cull area, CFIA observed spraying and feeding something. They vigorously stirred. Then was the 3:00 a.m. big trucks apparently porta potties. Wish you were still there. I'm not sure that
So this is all last night while I was
what you're getting
home. Yes,
they were observed spraying and feeding something.
I know that there is concern, especially after they took the cameras out, and because the world is saying test these birds, that naturally a lot of the people there are concerned that perhaps they could give the birds some new strain of H5N1. I haven't seen what she's referring to because I just got home, I had to have a shower, etc. So I will look into that. It should be, even if they were allowed to continue and there was no interim stay, they were never allowed to operate between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. So I don't know what that's all about. That never should have been happening if it's true that trucks came in and they were unloading something in the dark and things like that. And that's why Rebel News, that's one of the many reasons why when we go back, We have to uphold our promise to be your eyes and ears at the farm. That's what I've been saying every time I go there, but they are making that difficult. So we are brainstorming behind the scenes on how to counteract their plans to shield you guys from the public. So if you want to help us with that, that's going to cost us. We come with our phones. We are not funded by the government. So me and Sheila are running around with our phones, and we need, this is a big project. And so if you want to help out with that at savetheostriches.com, there is a donate option. Before it was to cover our expenses, to cover this, but the expenses are going to go up. We have some ideas on how to make sure you guys are not shielded out from whatever they have to do. God forbid the farmers don't win this legally.
Bring back the Rebel copter. There you go. We'll have a real bird's eye view then.
Yes, but remember the
all
police
right, we have another
pilot in the air. And so I'm sure they're already working on, I don't know. I have to look into whether they can restrict us from flying over it too. I don't know. So we have to be creative.
It seems like the government's ready to pull, and they're ready to pull all the punches. So we have to think ahead. Alex Greer gives $6.99. Thank you very much. And also another couple bucks and says, thanks. Great seeing you both in Calgary. Yes, likewise, Alex. Thank you. Albereth Gilthoniel gives $5. Thank you. Laughing flock with the laughing emoji. Rebel news turning tragedy into comedy. Love you, ladies. I mean, really, the world is so bizarro, crazy that I'm like, if we're not going to laugh, we'll just cry. So you have to make it as light as possible when you can, because it is a crazy world out there, and we are the laughing flock of the world with the way that our liberal government attempts to govern, but just is more like rogue than anything else. Mm-hmm. I am going to read this quick ad read from the Wellness Company, and then we'll go to a couple ad breaks before we come back to more craziness in the country of Canada. This is their Ultimate Spike Detox. The Journal of Clinical Laboratory Analysis suggests you may not be in the clear even if you feel fine, and that's from COVID-19. Researchers analyzed blood from people who had recovered from COVID and found something concerning. Their platelets, which are essential for healthy blood clotting, were not functioning properly even months after recovery. Other studies have found lingering spike proteins in the bloodstream and organs, causing immune system dysfunction and even mitochondrial damage, whether from the virus or mRNA shots. This is why Dr. Peter McCullough developed Ultimate Spike Detox. This doctor-formulated blend includes nattokinase to help break down spike protein, bromelain to support immune health, and turmeric with black pepper to reduce inflammation and repair cells. Take back control of your health today and head to twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off plus free shipping. That's twc.health/rebel and use code REBEL to get 10% off, because it's time to own your own health.
Yep. We know the government's not going to do that for us, so we got to take initiatives for sure.
All right, we'll hit a couple, and I think we have another ad, and then we'll come back for some more.
Big news! Rebel News now has premium memberships on X, Locals, and right here on YouTube. For just $4.99 a month on YouTube, you'll get loyalty badges, custom emojis, and access to members-only chats during our live streams. At $8.99 a month, you'll also unlock Rebel News Plus shows and our documentaries. But here's the catch. YouTube could cancel that premium tier at any time. That's why the best way to support us is at rebelnewsplus.com. It's just $8 a month, cheaper if you go annual, and you'll get exclusive extras like an ad-free site, comments access, and even the chance to submit op-eds. Wherever you join us, thanks for keeping our independent journalism alive and strong.
That's the best feeling. That's why we're in this business. We love to see the clients grow from the time they walk in to the time that they're employed and after. It's amazing to see the confidence build, their digital skills build, their life improve. It's not just about helping the client that walks in the door, but it's about helping their family, their home life. It's a holistic support to help with the barriers that get in the way of successful employment.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
All right, we're back with the Liberals still eyeing up Canadians' legal guns. And this comes most recently from our Public Safety Minister, Gary Anandasangari, who I would say is just embroiled in scandal after scandal. There's been a few different things recently that have put his ethics, integrity, are we surprised again, into question. But here we have this little clip of him where before he goes on to announce their unlawful gun grab, he of course makes time for a land acknowledgement.
Good afternoon. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we're gathered here on the traditional unceded territories of the Anishinaabe Algonquin peoples. I want to thank everyone for being here today.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So just a little tidbit, I am on one of my children's parent council, and usually parent council, they all do, these land acknowledgements. And I was so happily surprised earlier this week, joining in one of the first meetings, that they didn't do a land acknowledgement at all. So I was like, okay, I can get into this. But usually these parent council places, they're just doing it like out of the goodness of their own hearts. I think they're not actually, there's no policy or bylaw or anything that compels them to undertake that speech. And yet they want to do it anyway. It's really bizarre. And, what I always say is, well, if the land is stolen, then we should give it back. And if it's not, then why are we talking about it?
Yeah, it's totally a mantra that people are just reciting without really thinking. But when you think of the younger generation and they start to learn, and it's like pledging allegiance to this belief. And one time I won't get into the whole story, but I've covered, the land acknowledgement thing and the issues with it for a while. And I was outside of a high school covering a teacher from Abbotsford, Jim McMurtry, who got fired after saying if there were 215 children remains there at Kamloops, they wouldn't have been murdered. It would most likely have been like tuberculosis or something. And he lost his job for saying that. But he went back, wrote a book, and did a book signing across the street from the school. And so I was talking to this one kid off camera because I didn't have his parents' permission, of course. And he was a teenager, and he was saying, oh yeah, that guy's racist or whatever. And he was South Asian. And I said, well, let me ask you this. Why do you think that? And he goes, well, because it's not our land here and this and that. And I said, well, do your parents own your own home? And he said, yes. And I said, well, when they're older, should they be passing that on to you? Are you going to take it, or are you going to give it to someone else? And then he thought, and he's like, well, I'm going to keep it. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, because it's my parents, and then it would be mine. And I'm like, And then he just started laughing. And then he's like, you know what? The Indigenous kids do get better field trips than us.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like, oh no, what did I create? But
a critical thinker, Drea.
Yeah,
that's
a
all.
critical thinker. He totally flipped. But that's the thing. No one's encouraging them to see anything from any different perspective than what the state wants them to think. But back to the gun grab.
Yes.
Which is another issue. We know the Albertans are going to be like, yeah, this is not really helping. Good luck finding companies to help you with this. But of course, British Columbia is jumping all over it. I just shared a tweet here. So the Surrey police have already confirmed that they will be participating along with all police agencies and carrying out the confiscations from BC gun owners, law-abiding gun owners who've done nothing wrong there. That's what it's putting. So that's the statement They're going after the assault style firearms, or that's who's going to do it, and in collaboration with management. And so what I want to say about that is when it comes to gun crime in the Lower Mainland, probably in BC, Surrey is where it's the highest, okay? I bet you it's across the whole province, but for sure anywhere near it. So here they are putting all these resources into going after law-abiding citizens in Surrey and beyond. And then they're missing the mark on actually cracking down on the illegal gun owners who are shooting up businesses in Surrey, who are doing all this gang targeting violence out there. But yeah, let's go after the ones that are not hurting anybody. It's so frustrating.
Well, not only that, but how many resources are being wasted on this gun buyback program nonsense instead of actually targeting the criminals causing the crime? It's once again, Canada is the laughing flock and stock on the world stage because this makes no sense. The Ontario Provincial Police came out and they said, this was last week, they said that they will not back the confiscation scheme and just said, no, like we don't have the time or the resources to do this. It's nonsense. And this comes right as Safety Minister Anna Sangari had leaked audio from a phone call with, I think it was one of his, a tenant in a condo that he rents out or something like that. But he basically admitted that this gun buyback program isn't really stopping any gun crime. He acknowledged that it's illegal criminals causing the gun crime.
Right.
And that they would have done this differently, or perhaps not at all, if it weren't an election promise. And so he faces continued pressure from Quebec to continue with the buyback scheme. And so in light of all of that and that leaked audio, Prime Minister Mark Carney has come out and saying that he, stands by his minister and he continues to have confidence in his ability. And it gives me vibes from Paul Chang when he called for that bounty on, I think it was Joe Tay, from the Communist Party, basically. And Prime Minister Mark Carney came out again, said he had confidence in his minister and referred to it as a teachable moment before Paul Chang resigned in disgrace. So now you have him basically doing the same thing, the same song and dance, coming out saying that he still has confidence in Minister Ananda Sangari, even though he doesn't himself have confidence in their own buyback program. Listen to this.
A leaked audio recording of the public safety minister said that he couldn't explain the logic of the gun buyback program and that Ottawa was bending to pressure with Quebec. Today, he defended the program and still says he wants to go ahead with it. How can you have confidence in a minister that says one thing privately and another thing publicly in the House of Commons?
Well, let's first put this in context, which is that we're talking about fulfilling a campaign promise. We ran on this, first and foremost. Secondly, we're talking about taking guns off the street in a voluntary fashion. People voluntarily contribute the guns to the gun buyback program. But these are guns that are assault rifles, AR-15s and variants, thousands of variants, and that decisions have been taken by Parliament in previous parliaments to ban them. So we have a mechanic in place in order for people to return them, consistent with decisions of Parliament, sovereign Parliament, consistent with an election platform on which we ran and on which we were elected, and this is fulfilling that. See? And so the minister is doing important work.
So we said we would.
So we have to. You start with your promises to put Canada first economically. I mean, that would be a good place to start. And then maybe we can afford this.
Right. Or target actual crime.
Yeah.
Let's focus our efforts back onto illegal crime and organized crime groups in Canada.
Yeah, he just
How about
said
that?
we're getting these guns off the streets. I'm sorry, they're not on the streets. Like you have to, when you own a gun, you have to literally say, I'm going to be taking the gun from this location to this location so that it's monitored. That's not on the streets. The guns that are on the streets are the actual problem.
Right. And well, I mean, again, unsurprising from a government, and this minister in Sangre didn't even know what an RPAL was. He didn't even know that there was like a different license for restricted firearms. And so these guys are out to lunch. They have no idea what they're doing. They have no idea what they're talking about. I don't know how these people come to have these portfolios when they quite literally do not know anything about them.
Yep.
Like, aren't we paying, don't you get paid like a pretty hefty salary and all of your staffers to bring you up to speed on any of these things? Like, ignorance is not bliss when you're tasked with drafting and developing and implementing policy for the entire country. It's crazy. And then, of course, they just expect people to voluntarily comply, is what he said. I think this was from 2 days ago in the House of Commons, but let's show this clip here.
How is this? You say that the program is voluntary, but after the amnesty ends, the people are not in compliance with the law. So how is this truly voluntary?
So Canadians, starting in Cape Breton today, will be able to enroll in the program, be able to get compensated if they were to turn their firearm in, or they will be able to get compensation if they deactivate and confirm that it's deactivated with a certificate. So it is strictly voluntary. Nobody is being forced to undertake the buyback program. Well, the expectation is that they will comply, and the order in council, as you know, is being extended from this October to October of 2026. So there is a one-year window. Our expectations is that law-abiding citizens will abide by the law, and beyond that, the police of jurisdiction is tasked to, as you know, implement the criminal code.
Yeah, and the criminals, they'll just be left to proliferate and develop more organized crime groups, because we're focusing on our legal, law-abiding gun owners who aren't traveling in the streets with their guns, by the way.
He just said our expectation is that law-abiding citizens will abide by the law. Why are you taking guns away from law-abiding citizens if that's your expectation? What the heck is wrong with this government? Oh my gosh.
It's like they don't even, there's no logic or reasoning or rationale involved. I'd love to know the IQ levels of some of these people, because it seems like they're a few fries short of a Happy Meal, and it makes no logical, like, you try to think about it logically and I just keep coming up blank. This doesn't make any sense.
I know that if you say something with a straight face, a significant portion of society will just bob their head, and just like they don't challenge, they don't think critically.
Yeah. Well, and we've had a media that hasn't thought critically or challenged any of this for so long that it's just allowed to proliferate, and they get away with this repeatedly over and over and over again. And so it's become so easy, really, to be a politician up there just speaking nonsense out of your mouth, because no one's going to push back on you. And that is the sad state of affairs that we currently live in.
Yeah. Trudeau was so good at that. I mean, he was the master.
And this is the same public safety minister, right? This guy is in charge of our public safety, who had to recuse himself from talks with the Tamil Tigers, or anything to do with them, because he has links and connections with the Tamil Tigers. And so this guy is in charge of the public safety of our entire country, having conflicts of interest with designated terrorist groups. I mean, it doesn't get any more fishy, for lack of a better word, than that. And this is the person who doesn't even know what an RPAL is, restricted gun license, who's tasked with this whole program, and they're expecting you to just voluntarily give up your guns and comply, right? Canadians, we're just told we just have to comply every which way. A home invader enters your home, you better comply. The government wants to take away your guns, sorry, I'm getting heated. The government wants to take away your guns. Guess what? You also better comply. So every which way, Canadians are just being told by all the institutions who are supposed to protect things like public safety, community safety. We're being told, well, you know
farmers.
what? Don't worry about it. Just comply. Lay down, comply.
Mhm.
I think a lot of Canadians are done complying, and they're saying enough is enough.
I do think so too. Because the overreach, the agenda, it's coming to every sector. It's affecting everybody. I think sadly we live in like almost like a narcissistic society where nobody cares about anything unless it's impacting them, and there's no collectivism, there's no community. It's not, your rights are my rights, therefore I'll fight for your rights. But what's happened is this government overreach has gone so rampant, and they're so confident in what they can do and how they can roll it out, that it really is starting to impact, almost every family in one way or another. So you're going to go after a whole new sector once you really take those guns away, or try to, if they can even roll it all out. Like, it's just, I don't even know.
It's been such a mess at this point. I doubt anything will even happen.
Yeah.
And how many people are just touting their guns, calling up, hey, I have my RPAL, so I need a pass to travel with my legal gun that I bought and own and register, and now have my name run through an RCMP database literally every single day to make sure that I'm in compliance with my law-abiding gun ownership. But I'm just going to travel with it down the road so I can turn it in. And here you go, big gov, please take my gun and pay me maybe for it. Like, I doubt people are doing that. So this is all just smoke and mirrors.
Well, what's concerning about it though is that, we're hearing, they're we're encouraging them to, and they can voluntarily do all these things. So what is going to be the hammer if you don't? Because if you look at, I forget the exact stats, but a significant portion of gun convictions are literally just like not locking your gun up. Like, the police enter your house for something else, and they find a gun that's not locked up right. And then, of course, there's actual criminals using guns, mostly in gun crime. So if they implement something where it's like, okay, if you haven't done this by this date, then this, there's going to be so many people who maybe don't even know about it, or aren't paying attention, or just, want to hang on to their right. They just don't agree with it. And then what will be the consequence to that?
Yeah, and we have a couple super chats to get to. Jay Pedersen gives $20. Thank you very much. Says, distrust of most government institutions begs the question, with the CFIA in charge of the birds, would they take the opportunity to reinfect them manually and then agree to retest? How far is the bureaucracy willing to go? There's so many weird nefarious things that they could be doing. Like, now they're tasked with taking care of these birds, right? They have to feed them and mind them, and who's to say that they will just stop?
It actually feels like a war there. Like, it actually does. It feels like, you have two bodies working against each other and playing chess moves on how to beat the next person out and things like that. And you got hay bales burning, and then you've got the farmers, after the hay bales burning, go to the police and saying, hey, that's on you. You're not keeping us safe. We need to up the game, which I thought was really interesting. Before the RCMP could say, clear out the supporters, the farmers said, hey, you're dropping the ball here. You're not keeping our supporters safe. So I would love to say, no, government agency isn't going to infect the birds. But again, the world is actually watching. As I was doing a live stream, I could see my mom text, they're feeding the birds. They're going to reinfect them. And so everybody is thinking of this. And there would be a significant portion of people who would be like, if they did all of a sudden catch the newest strain, and made a big deal about it, I do think some people would be like, yeah, I'm not buying that. You guys didn't test them. And even that wording of, I forget that scientist's name that we were just talking about, and she keeps saying, we don't know if they'll be reinfected. They could be reinfected. I mean, that's just a weird thing to say. Everybody could be infected. Like, what is that? You don't just kill people because they might catch something, or animals. So why is she saying that?
It's really, it's everything that's happening at that ostrich farm is just so unbelievably bizarre that it defies logic and rationality. We have Peggy L here who gives $13.99, and she says, I emailed my MP Michael Barrett yesterday morning and advised him that unless the Conservatives stood up and demanded answers as to why this cull is happening, I would not be renewing my membership.
Woo!
That is money talks.
Voting talks, absolutely. And like, again, just everything is riding on this story. You have the farming rights, you have property rights, you have food sovereignty, then you get into the scientific big pharma aspect. Like, how is this all happening in a rural Edgewood farm? And then you have the grassroots, the people against the state. So really everything is wrapped up into this. And we might even start seeing the right to protest. So far, the police have been good. They did something new. They did add a fence up to sort of, after hay bales mysteriously caught fire in the middle of the night under their nose. They did secure it more with some of those blue fencing, but they could have said, get the heck out of here. So, I'm not mad at them for that or anything like that. But the point is, we could start to see that be an issue if they do say, no, you need to get these protesters off your private property. So there's a lot going on here.
Yeah. And stay tuned because the story's not over. We have Jam gives $5. They're already taking away your vehicles and your pew-pews. Next will be your homes. They've already taken land in BC. And gave it to the natives.
And I'll flip it back to the ostriches. That's also what the farmers it appears trying to do too, because they connected with, I didn't see the people they didn't want to be seen. They wanted to come when everybody was sleeping and off cameras. And but there is some people from a nearby nation saying that they don't, this is unceded territory. They're flipping the script. And, we were not, nobody came to us to see if we approve of this, and we don't approve to that. So that was given to the RCMP too. So there's a lot going on.
Silver Feet gives $5, and thanks everybody for chiming in and getting your comments into the show. He says, sorry to go full menzoid, but Sheila reminds me of Hawk Girl pre-woke because of her love for birds. Oh, I don't know if Sheila would agree with this. She even drove 24 hours round trip to see the ostriches. Sheila is such an inspiration to my daughter. Oh, well, that's nice.
That's sweet.
Sheila's really taking one. Yeah, Sheila's really taking one for the team. She's not sure how she feels about the ostriches, but it's an important story.
And she's a farmer, so she gets it. And so it's an important story for her personally, but also just in general, to try to save Canada, save the ostriches to try to save Canada, right?
Exactly. Well, we don't have a daily dose of cringe, and I just wanted to wrap up with a daily dose of cringe. So maybe this story can kind of be our daily dose of cringe. It's the TTC, Toronto Subway, their transit, specifically their subway, will be hiring crisis workers to work a portion of line 1. So I think it's specifically, I think it says down here, the U portion. If you've ever taken a look at the map of the TTC, the subway lines, it's like the downtown core is the U, and then the lines kind of stem off of it. But anyway, starting November 15th, so in about 2 months, because the crime and chaos can wait that long, I suppose, crisis workers will be available around the clock on the U portion of the Toronto Transit Commission's Line 1. The pilot project aims to make the TTC safer.
This
a TTC special constable received. Well, it is, because I don't know how much crisis workers are going to be able to make the TTC safer, right? The TTC is being plagued with severe decay and disarray, drug addiction, mental health issues, homelessness. People are using the TTC basically as just like their de facto house.
You're right.
And it has gotten so out of control that the TTC special constables, this CBC article says, they received over 1,000 calls for service, or sorry, for persons in crisis last year.
Wow.
And that's, I mean, how many people don't actually call?
Yeah.
And so the TTC is really, it's breaking down. It's not safe on public transit in Toronto right now. And quite literally, if you go online and start and see some of the videos and clips that are being shared, people are bathing on the TTC. They're using it as a bathroom. There's bed bugs. There's lice.
Oh my gosh.
There's crime. There's violence, assaults, stabbings. The TTC, I would not feel. I used to live downtown Toronto, walked around at night by myself, frequented. That's a bed bug.
On the seat?
On the seat of the TTC.
Oh, good God, no.
It's gotten so bad at this point. I don't think I would feel safe or comfortable riding the TTC.
Yeah, I work with my eldest on the trains out here, but it sounds really bad out there.
So I think this is cringy because this TTC obviously needs some more harsh enforcement, not just crisis workers. That's not to say there's not a role for crisis workers to play in some of these cases. There's someone bathing on the TTC,
what on
like
earth
full
is
on
going on?
Soap and just lathering right up there on Toronto's transit. I mean, I'm giggling, but like,
okay, it is
imagine
cringe. I take it back. That was like the most cringy one we've done in a long time. Bed bugs and bathing. Oh my gosh.
Bed bugs and bathing.
Oh.
The two kind of don't go hand in hand, but you'll apparently, if you take the TTC these days and Olivia Chow's Toronto, you will see it all, and not in a good way. So in order to try to get on top of this problem, the TTC has hired new crisis workers. And so I guess we'll hope for the best and pray that it all works out. But I have my doubts that this is the only thing the TTC needs to restore public safety.
Absolutely.
All right. I think we've gotten through all of the super chats, and we're a little bit past the hour. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, tuning into our daily news and opinion show. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thanks, everybody behind the scenes who make sure that everything runs smoothly for all of you watching, and for us too. We have all the links ready to go, and we can source back and show you things on screen, because maybe you wouldn't believe that people were soaping and lathering up on the TTC in Toronto recently, but there you have it in full video format. And so we'll join you same time and place tomorrow from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern. And until then, stay sane and question everything.
Gun bans make great distraction.
Trudeau may be gone, but Carney has picked up his same rhetoric.
We will quickly, and I mean quickly, reinvigorate the buyback of
Hunters, collectors, competitors, and defenders of tradition are still being targeted, while criminals run wild under Liberal policy. But we are fighting back. Join us. Canada's National Firearms Association.